Hello everybody, you're watching The Daily Brew, and I'm obviously The Brew. I have no idea how I'm going to record this video, what I'm going to say. All I know is that when I'm coming up with music, okay, using Maschine software and the Maschine Micro, and of course all my plugins and add-ons that I've bought probably in the last 6 months, my wife will come in during this whole music production if I'm coming up with a song or whatever, especially for one of our films. And she sits behind me and she watches and she says, you know, you should put up videos on what you're doing because you're blowing my mind and you might blow other people's mind. I hope I'm not blowing anybody, but you get my point. I said, okay, sure, I'll try it. I will give it a try. So I'm doing this on the suggestion from my wife. So let's just get right into it. Okay, guys? So first things first, what I do when I first sit down and I want to come up with a song, okay? And I'm into the whole big synth wave, outrun, synth pop, dark synth, just anything synth right now I am into, okay? Because the 80s, as far as the music, there was a lot of good music that came out of the 80s. And I'm not talking about like John Carpenter, like Halloween, and if you ever listen to a guy named Kavinsky, he had his music on Drive. So I'm kind of into that stuff right now. So I bought a package called Arturia. If you're interested in any of the plugins that I have or that you see, just ask me in the comments below and I will tell you exactly where I got them from. Now, on the screen you see all my patterns. Okay, and these is basically where I put down ideas, and then I will click on view and I'll go to arranger and I'll start arranging those ideas to see if they sound decent or if it sounds like a song or something that's passable as a song. Okay, so I'll lay down my ideas first, but I always start with a bass line. Okay, it's either a bass line or a drum pattern. Those two things I will start with. This is the drum pattern here. I started with the bass line. We'll go to the drums first because it's kind of easy to get it out of the way. This is the first drum pattern that I tried. Okay, very simple, right? Very simple. Just boom, kick, boom, kick. Cool, right? And then I said, okay, well, let's throw down this next idea. And let's put toms at the end to signal a transition to another pattern. So it sounds like this. We're going to start in the middle. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but we'll just start in the middle. Okay, and with other synths going, it sounds really good. And in the third pattern, I put sprinkled toms here in the middle. It sounds like this. And then, again, I just sit down and start putting ideas down with the Maschine Micro, and this is how I'm coming up with drum patterns. And I'm at 100 BPM, and of course it shows you the grid and everything so you know where to put your MIDI notes, or you can play them on the pads itself, and then you can quantize. This right here, I think I painted the MIDI notes in. And that's basically the third pattern. Fourth pattern isn't much different. It just has toms at the end. Okay, and then the fifth pattern is just blank with toms at the end. Okay, and that will sound good in its context. And this is the next drum beat. Basically, it doesn't change full 4 time. It's very simple drum beats. So now that we got the drums out of the way and I've got some ideas down, we're going to go to pattern 1 of the synths and start laying down the bass. And what I did was I started in, what key am I starting in? Let's see here. In the key of C. I kept it very simple, stayed in the key of C, and the bass line sounds like this. Very simple. It's 6 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's just a drone kind of bass line. And I do layer if you'll notice in Maschine, you can put sounds in link groups as slaves. So right now my bass lead is the master, then my mid bass is a slave, and then for my sub bass, I just have it starting on C, and then matching the notes that my bass lead is doing. So it all sounds like this. If you're on your phone, you probably can't hear all the sub bass and mid bass, but it makes everything sound warmer, sound more bassy, more in your face, you know. And that's basically it. So I've got a bass lead, mid bass, and a sub bass. Okay, so you really want them sub basses to make your damn car shake. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, and the next thing I did, and these all, let me go back compared to the bass lead. This is Analog Lab that I'm using. I'm using the Mini Armagon, which is my bass. And these are just some what the hell is that? These are just some badass 70s and 80s synthesizers, and they're freaking awesome. Oh, you can click on, there's the Mini right there, Mini. Probably the most famous synth in history and sporting a discography to match. The Bob Moog's Mono Synth is legendary for its fat, warm basses and leads. I think that says owing to its 3 VCOs, blah, 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 blah. You get it. It's a really good synth for bass. So let's go on to our pad. And the pad that I'm using for this is the ARP 2600 slow build. Sounds like this. All right, so and this is what that sounds like together. Very cool, right? We're getting somewhere. We've got it like halfway there. Here's where the getting's good. Is right here, and where I'm using arpeggios. Now, I'm using a lead pluck sound from Lethal, and I think a lot of people has heard me talk about Lethal. It's $200, and it has some awesome presets, especially for EDM, trance, that kind of stuff. But you could still use a lot of it for the 80s synthwave that people are doing nowadays on SoundCloud. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. Anyway, this is what the pluck sound sounds like. Very pretty, very pretty. And so now, here's what all this sounds like. Very cool. So these arpeggios, I basically did them myself within the scale of C minor, and I did it in 16th notes, and it's really easy to do on the Maschine Micro, and maybe one day I will show it. Like, it's really easy. If you're interested and want to see it, the live production of this, because I did not paint any of these notes, I actually used the pads, and it's very easy to do to come up with these arpeggios on the Maschine Micro. Yeah, and they just sound cool, and that pluck sound is really cool. I've really enjoyed Lethal. Glad I bought it. Recommend it if you're trying to make some music. Excuse me. Okay, and then I did a different arpeggio, which sounds like this, alone. All right, so if you start adding the pad and the bass back in, it's got a very cinematic sound to it, and that's exactly what I was going for because wanted to use it for a film or a video. And this is another arpeggio. And this is what this sounds by itself. Which I think that is not a different arpeggio. Here we go. This is it right here. And with all the bass and the pad. And you can hear that bass, how it's hitting right here. It sounds really good. Cool, and that's pretty much it. As far as everything else, it's just kind of screwing around. Like I knew I wanted to have like a breakdown in the middle of the song that would kind of sound like this, and have the bass come in the middle part of it. And then it would go on back into. And that's basically all the idea. So I came up with 14 patterns using the synths, right? And then I came up with 8 or 9 because these are empty, really. I don't think I use these. The drum patterns, not too many. Then I went over here to the arranger, and I started putting those ideas down where I thought they sounded the best. That's basically my process. And so this is what it sounds like. You can put, and these scenes right here is like the next scene. You can have how many patterns you need. And then next scene you have some more patterns. Next scene you have some more patterns, etc., etc. Then you just rinse and repeat and you build your freaking song. There's your bass. Now coming up is the turnaround right here with the toms. Right here at the end on 6.3, you'll hear it. And that's just basically, they're really good to use for transitions. And even though there's no drum pattern over here, it still sounded correct. And then you have more toms going into another transition for a different pattern. All right, don't mean to bore you. I could listen to that song for days because actually I really like that song. And if you go to my SoundCloud right now, I've got it open on another page, but it's Brujmac, Brujmac on SoundCloud. The song is called Will I Dream, and I started it off with HAL 9000 from 2001, 1968 movie, and it sounds like this.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
That's just an introductory on how I come up with ideas in Maschine. And we can start talking about, because it is so, it's so robust, and you could go down this rabbit hole of synth channels, EQing, just so much shit, guys. Like, I've got these drums EQ'd, and you could tell this is a multi-band compressor as well. And then you've got your synth channels. I've got a reverb synth channel. And, of course, you got to talk about scales, minor keys or whatever, major keys. And it's just a lot of shit to it. I've had the Maschine probably for about 6-7 months. I'm not really sure when I bought it, but I've learned a lot. I'll put it that way, to get to where I'm at now. And I've always wanted to go down that synthwave outrun type of music with it. But you could do all kind of shit. You could do heavy metal, you can remix. I mean, this is how a lot of people are coming up with sampling a lot, hip hop. And I can show you, let's go to a new project, that you can come in here and you can browse. And even though I'm doing this, let's go to my library, so I can do this on the screen. But usually I'll do this with the Maschine hardware. I'll go in here and browse. What the hell am I going here? It's groups. And these are my expansion packs that I have. I have Astral Flutter, Crystal Daggers, Drop Squad. Drop Squad is like dubstep. And then Crystal Daggers is like EDM music. Golden Kingdom is hip hop. Don't know what Magnet Hustle is. I bought some of these off of Craigslist from other people. And Neon Drive is 80s synth stuff. Prospect Haze is some really good sampling, hip-hop stuff, and pulse work. So let me go to Prospect Haze real quick, and here's some of the kits that you can load. And they sound really good. And these are a lot of chords. That's just me playing the pads, but you get it. I mean, and there's a lot of sounds. And yeah, you can come up with songs just using these pre-made kits from these expansion packs, and it's pretty amazing. But on top of that, not to mention that, yes, I bought all of these expansion packs. I also came in here and, like, for instance, I wanted a cello, right? And I wanted an orchestra. So with Native Instruments, Contact 5 is a cool player for plugins. And as soon as it will load, and I bought the Tina Guow, however you say her name. I bought her cello pack, which is like around $80, I think. I also bought the Cine Symphony Light, which is really good. The Giant is another $100. It adds up, folks. It's money. Yeah. And then let's see here. Emotive Strings, that was pretty expensive, and I got that. And again, that was for like wedding films that we do. Then I got the finger picking guitar, the strummed acoustics too, which is really nice. So let me go into pad mode and play. So this is what I'm talking about for like a minor, even though a cello already sounds sad enough. This is a minor scale in the key of C. And let me drop the octave down a little bit. Oh, and then like the emotive strings is really nice. And I need to make another video of all the stuff that I've got with Native Instruments and other sound packs, VSTs, Reaper. You can come in here and go to Arpeggios, sounds really good. And for this, you have to play chords. And that's, you can play these arpeggios, 16th notes up and down. You can slow it down. That's really cool. You know, just play your chord and it tells you what you're freaking playing. Playing C minor, E flat major, etc., etc. And these have some cool melodic, like Storyteller. I think you can play. So, yeah, let me come off of chords and it will play. That's cool. Emotive strings. It's really cool. I have made some music with it so far. A lot of stuff that comes default with Contact, like vintage organs, retro machines. The Giant's really good. It's one of their best pianos, in my opinion. Let's go to Intimate and play the piano. That is loud. So again, let's go to chords. And let's play a major. This is major instead of minor keys. So yeah, it's a really good sounding piano. But I need to go through a lot of my VSTs and plugins because they're really cool. And it's what I'm digging so far, folks, what I'm digging. And my wife is like, you need to show more of what you're doing. You need to share. Share. You need to be a giver. And so that's what I'm trying to do, folks, even though it's maybe boring to you. Because I know that I did a lot of the gaming back in the day, you know, with the whole Brewmac For You channel. And I pissed a lot of people off and all that other junk. And, you know, I'm just trying to just share what I'm doing. You know, being a nice guy. All right. See you later.